Most people applying for a marriage-based green card have no idea what has just changed. USCIS has not exactly held a press conference, but behind the scenes, they've made some real changes to how these cases are being handled. So if you are applying for a marriage-based green card this year, be prepared. The rules on paper might look the same, but the process is about to get a lot harder. And if you don't know what these changes are, a small mistake can delay your process by a great deal, and it might even ruin your chances of getting a green card. So what are some of these changes that USCIS has made behind the scenes? Let's start with forms. USCIS has recently released new versions of the forms used for marriage green card cases. This includes the Form I-485 for persons applying for adjustment of status from inside the United States, Form I-29F for fiancé visas, and Form I-130, the petition filed by U.S. citizens for their relatives. The new I-485 became mandatory as of April 3rd, and the new I-129F will be required as of May 1st. The current I-130 was updated in 2024 and is still being used, but it now includes new explicit warnings about marriage fraud and a reminder that you must choose either consular processing or adjustment of status if you do not want your case to be rejected. When the updates were first released in January, USCIS said that these changes were effective immediately. So applicants who had just filed with the previous versions could end up seeing their cases be rejected. After some confusion and after a lawsuit was filed, USCIS gave in and ended up giving a short grace period until April 2nd for the I-485 and until April 30th for the Form I-129F. Still, many people have not seen this announcement. And now that one of these deadlines has passed, submitting an outdated I-485 could delay your case by requiring you to start all over again. Speaking of the I-485, it recently had some other changes that you need to be aware of. The new version now expands questions about your income, savings, debt, education, job history, and whether or not you have ever received public benefits. And if you have watched my other videos, then you will know that these are some of the same questions that were used during Trump's public charge rule. That version was removed underneath Biden, but this is the clearest sign that yet again, it's quietly coming back. I recently made a video about the public charge rule. If you want to learn more about how it works, I'll include a link to that video in the description below. Okay, now let's talk about the cost, which is higher than ever before. And this year, the total fees for a marriage-based green card application from inside the United States can add up to $3,005. That includes $675 for the I-130, $1,440 for the I-485, $260 for the work permit, and $630 for the travel permit. On top of that, you'll need to pay for your medical exam, which can range from $150 to $600, depending on which doctor you work with and your circumstances. And later, you might have to pay another $750 to remove the conditions on your green card. In addition, USCIS now has a rule that each form must be paid through separate checks separately. If you send just one combined check, your entire application could be rejected. Next, as a result of recent processing changes, processing times are also getting longer. Right now, marriage-based green cards filed from inside the United States can take up to 14 months. And if your spouse is applying from outside of the country, then it can take up to 3 years. Part of the reason for these new delays is because USCIS is underneath a federal hiring freeze. Many officers are also being required to return to work in person. Some are simply resigning instead, which means fewer officers and a slower case processing time. So if you've been waiting to file, now is the time. Do it now before the processing time length becomes even longer. One of the other things causing an increased processing time are increase in higher scrutiny on cases that results in additional requests for evidence. Requests for evidence are about to get a lot more intense. Couples are now being asked to submit in-depth financial records, detailed relationship timelines, photos with context, screenshots of conversations, and phone logs to USCIS. Some have also reported home visits with USCIS officers with extended family, even when there were no obvious issues with their cases. And while the forms are getting longer, the wait times are getting longer, USCIS has now brought back mandatory interviews. If you saw my latest marriage green card video, you already know that Trump brought back mandatory interviews for nearly all marriage green card cases. That policy is now being fully enforced, and officers are expected to look for signs of fraud even when it's a straightforward case. In addition, more couples are being sent to Stokes interviews, where each couple is questioned separately from the other and questions are measured against each other. Finally, there has been a shift in how USCIS talks about marriage-based petitions. The I-130 petition now includes a new note encouraging the public to report suspected marriage fraud. This language was not there last year. This update suggests that USCIS is preparing to take a harder line on marriage-based cases, even if no new law is passed. So while the rules on paper may look the same, the process is not. The form asks for a lot more. The reviews take longer and the expectations are higher. And if you are applying in 2025, you should assume that every part of your case will be closely scrutinized and held to a higher standard than before. So if you are applying for a marriage-based green card this year, what can you do to protect your chances of getting approved? Start by checking your forms. Always download them directly from the USCIS website whenever you start working on your case. And make sure you file with the most recent up-to-date version by looking at the USCIS webpage before you file. Make sure that the edition date at the bottom of the page matches the edition date listed as being currently used on the forms page at uscis.gov. If even one page is from the wrong version, your case will get rejected and possibly denied. Follow the updated filing rules. USCIS now wants you to pay for each form separately. Don't send one check for everything. And on the I-130 form, make sure you clearly choose whether or not your spouse is filing for adjustment of status or for consular processing. If you skip that part or choose both, then you can get rejected. According to USCIS, if a question does not apply to you, then you should write N/A in the field or not applicable. Next, start collecting your relationship evidence now. This includes things like joint bank accounts, shared housing bills or utility bills, photos of yourselves together over time, messages between the two of you, and letters from friends or family who have intimate knowledge of your relationship. The more proof you give, the stronger your case will be. And don't expect to skip the interview. Most couples will now have one. Prepare by reviewing your timeline, your daily routines, and your relationship history. You should both know the basics, like how you met, how you spend time together, how the marriage occurred, but don't assume that both of you remember the details exactly the same, so prepare. Officers are trained to spot small differences, so make sure you are both on the same page. If you want to learn more about what kind of questions to expect, I'll include a link to marriage green card questions in the description below. Also, keep your finances in order. The new green card forms asks for information that look a lot like the old public charge rule. Even though the rule has not officially come back, USCIS is now collecting information on your income, your debt, your assets, your job history, and education. If your household is closer to the minimum income required, which is 125% of the federal poverty guidelines for your household income size, consider including extra documents, such as recent pay stubs, a job offer letter, or a letter from your joint sponsor, just to be safe. And finally, stay up to date. One way you can do that is by subscribing to my channel. USCIS is constantly changing things without any sort of warning to even attorneys, quietly updating forms, deadlines, requirements, and procedures without press releases or providing any other information. I'll be reporting on these changes as they do so you can stay aware. And if you want to prepare the best that you possibly can, then you need to watch my other video, The Ultimate Guide to Proving That Your Marriage is Real. In it, I'll explain what type of evidences USCIS typically likes to see in their cases, and I show you how to avoid the most common mistakes couples make when trying to prove that their marriage is real. This is the most important part of your marriage green card case, so don't skip it. I'll include a link to that video here. Click next and I'll see you there.